Senator Warren, on behalf of the Center for Women in Politics and Public Policy, welcome to the New England Women's Policy Conference. And I want to welcome you on behalf of the McCormick School. My dean and I want to welcome you. We want to welcome you to UMass. We know that you're no stranger to this university, been here many times. I want to tell you that you are in a room of women who obviously are very excited to see you, but you're in a room of women who have had a rough 10 days. You're in a room of women who cried, women who were very angry, and now you're in a room of women activists who are ready to go. So I think I just want to say on behalf of all of us, you're our heroine. I was asking a number, everybody's like saying, I'm so excited that Senator Warren is coming. Why are you excited? She's a woman for other women. She is a woman who talks about her lived experience. People talked about how you talked about growing up on the ragged edge of the middle class, how you talk about being a single mother at a certain point in your life. Very meaningful to a lot of people. And then I certainly cannot forget that you stepped up as a non-politician and said, I'm going to run for office, and you won. So, women running for office, women being for other women, women understanding the struggles of the middle class is what this conference is all about, and we are so grateful to you for coming.
Thank you.
Wow. What a conference. Who here has been inspired today already? Well, we're going to keep going. And this afternoon, we have the honor to be joined by Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren. You may recall my earlier description, those of you who were here earlier when I introduced our luncheon speaker, of the description of John W. McCormick. Senator Warren is cut from the same cloth, as Ann just mentioned, working her way on the path from a family of limited means to the heights of power, and using that power to advance the public interest, the struggling family, the working person, those who have been left out of the system. And as has been noted at all the panels today, through all of the conversations, there's a timeliness right now, a ripeness to our collective mission and to what Senator Warren will talk about. And I know Ann said there was crying this week. I just want to relay a small personal story from this week. It's not as a partisan, but as a father of daughters who want to instill in them resilience and strength in a complex world. So last Tuesday night or Wednesday morning between like 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., I had one daughter on FaceTime from college, another daughter in her bed crying, my wife and I in the bed together. So all four of us were there. It was really difficult, very hard to explain. I couldn't explain. That morning I went down to make breakfast, and I was making breakfast, and I heard my 17-year-old daughter upstairs making a ruckus. I didn't know why. She never makes a ruckus in the morning. And she came downstairs with a light step, which she also doesn't do at 7 in the morning. And I said, what are you doing up there? She said, I cleaned my room, and I'm getting ready. I'm done whining. I'm done whining. I'm going to go to school today. She said, I'm going to go to school today, and there's going to be so much whining and complaining, but I am ready to move on. I am pulling on my big girl pants, and I am working on this. Boy, what an inspiration. What an inspiration to me. And And there are few people who are rallying and engaging and stepping up to the task at hand with the integrity, strength, and smarts of Senator Warren. She's not only a champion of causes of equality, community, justice, and economic opportunity, but she is the rare politician who can communicate the goals, ideals, and vision of transformative governance in ways that people can understand and are meaningful in their everyday lives. I've seen her translate collateralized debt obligations into protections for household investor worrying about her pension. I've seen her translate the nitty-gritty of infrastructure investment, which is really boring, but she's translated that into jobs. And I've seen her translate the complexities of the college loan system into educational opportunities. Now is the time, more than ever, that we need persistence and dogged dedication. Our times and Senator Warren's tenacity remind me of an Eleanor Roosevelt quote. You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You are able to say to yourself, I lived through this. I can take the next thing that comes along. Please join me in welcoming the Honorable Elizabeth Warren, Senator from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. These are hard times, and we are stronger when we are together. So thank you all for being here. That's what this is about. I am so delighted to be here today. Thank you very much for the warm and inspiring 2 introductions here. The UMass Boston Center for Women in Politics and Policy is really a place where women come together to make sure that their voices are heard and that their voices get stronger. And so I just want to say how delighted I am to be here as their guest and how it is that the New England Women's Policy Conference is one that brings leaders together in academia, in nonprofits, in business, to talk about what it is we can do to build more economic security for women and families. Your work is needed now more than ever. So it is a great honor to be here with you today, and I very much appreciate this invitation. So, let's talk for a minute about the elephant in the room, the large orange elephant in the room. No, we really have to talk about this, about how this election is going to affect all of the issues that you have been wrestling with for years, all of the things that are already really tough and are about to get a whole lot tougher. So I think a big part of the question is, how do we move forward from here? For me, the answer is that we make clear our core values as a country. If you're clear on your core values, if you know for sure where your feet are planted, then we can start building from that. I believe there are 2 things that we have to talk about. And the first is a core American value, that we believe in dignity and respect for every human being. No ifs, no ands, no buts, no compromise on that core principle ever, because that is where we start. And I want to make clear, that core principle affects so much of what we do. It will affect our healthcare policy, our immigration policy, prison reform, economic justice. It weaves through all of the issues that the people in this room touch every single day. And second, we believe in economic opportunity, not just for those at the top, but economic opportunity for all of us. And I just want to add to that because I think it's important to say it. We believe that our government has a role in both of those. Our government has a role in protecting our core values as a country, in making sure that we observe dignity and respect for each other, and in making sure that we build economic opportunity for not just some of us, but for all of us. President-elect Trump threatens both of these core values. Trump ran an ugly campaign, a campaign that was filled with bigotry. He launched his campaign with attacks on Mexican Americans, and then he took the escalator down. And from there, it was just one attack after another. Attacks on African Americans, attacks on Latinos, attacks on women, attacks on immigrants, attacks on Muslims, attacks on many of the people in this room, attacks on people we know and people we love, attacks on people who don't have the voices to stand up for themselves. So the question is, would he walk away from that after he won the election? And I've got to say, the early signs are bad in where they're headed. You know, he has started out by naming as his top strategic advisor Steve Bannon, a man who is a white supremacist, a man who told his ex-wife he didn't want his children going to school with Jews, a man who has been applauded by the KKK, and Donald Trump has brought him into the inner circle of his White House as he builds it. And now today, we hear that Donald Trump may be nominating Senator Sessions to be the Attorney General of the United States. And you know, this is a man whose openly racist statements disqualified him to be a federal judge decades back, that Republicans would not stand with him because they did not believe that he could be an independent and fair federal judge. And now, evidently, Donald Trump is talking about making him the Attorney General of the United States, the person who will be in charge of the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice and the chief person in charge of the enforcement of immigration policy in the United States. So let me say this as clearly as I can. There can be no compromise with racism. There can be no negotiation with bigotry. That is where we stand. You bet. That's right. None. So that's one set of core values. The other one is, let's talk for a minute about economic issues, something that I know many people in this room have worked on a lot. You know, this was a very close election. Hillary Clinton got, we believe now, at least 1 million more votes than Donald Trump got. The Democrats picked up seats in both the Senate and in the House of Representatives. And yet we find ourselves where we do, and that is that Republicans will be in charge of the House, the Senate, and the White House. Now, I don't think that means that there's much of a mandate for the Republicans to govern, and particularly for Donald Trump. But what I do take out of this part of the election is that people are angry about business as usual in Washington. They are angry about how Washington works for those at the top and does not work for most families across this country. Trump made promises during his election about how he would fight for working families. He said that was a core part of what he wanted to do. But I've got to say, the early signs are not good here either. Trump is building a transition that is stocked with lobbyists and corporate industry executives who want to use the tools of government to continue to work for those who have money and power. This is about taking a Washington that already works great for those at the top and making it work even greater for those at the top. This is another one where we have to say, we are here to fight for a government, we are here to fight for a country that builds economic opportunity, not just for some of our children, but for all of our children. That is an economic issue, but it is a moral issue as well. So, here's how I summarize this election. We will be tested as a nation. Do we truly believe in the dignity of every human being? Do we truly believe in building economic opportunity, not just for some of our children, but for all of our children? History calls on us. This is our time to stand and fight for our principles. Yes. Yeah, look. The time for whimpering, the time for whining, the time for crying is over. It is time to fight back. Are we clear on that? All right. We fight back. We fight back for the dignity of all Americans. We fight back for economic opportunity. I recognize these are hard times and they are going to get harder. But people are counting on us. They are counting on us even more than before. You know, my entire career has been studying and working on it and advocating to deal with the challenges, the economic challenges facing families across this country. Fighting for these issues now in the Senate, fighting with advocacy groups all across this country, and particularly here in this Commonwealth. You know, I want to mention a few issues that we just have to stay focused on right here in this room. And that is issues that are going to make a difference to everyone, but particularly issues that matter to women, that hit women and families particularly hard. Equal pay for equal work. You know, we talk about this. I can't find people who will defend unequal pay for equal work. I do find people who deny it, that we have a problem here, but I just want to be clear. You know, there are a lot of different ways to look at these statistics. The Census Department keeps track of job classifications. You know, there are all these job classifications, and they look to see how much people earn and what their educational achievements are and so on. There are actually 314 major occupational categories identified in the United States. And in 305 of those, do the math quickly, that's 97% of all job classifications in the United States, men are paid more than women. Think about that. Let's be completely clear about this. That is not an accident, that is discrimination. And it is up to our government to step up and say that sort of discrimination is not only illegal, but that we all have the tools to challenge it. So, I'm going to say it one more time, equal pay for equal work. That's what we're fighting for. I'm going to say one more, and that is raise the minimum wage to a living wage. You know, this is one that every one of these is deeply personal to me, but I just want to say on this particular one, I grew up in a family, as the dean noted, that was hanging on to its place in the middle class pretty much by our fingernails. And when I was 12 and my father had a heart attack, he was out of work for a long time, the bills stacked up, we lost our family station wagon. We were so close to losing our home that you could feel the foundations starting to shake. And my mother, who was 50 years old and had never worked outside the home, I remember the morning that she decided this was it. And she pulled out her best black dress, the one that she used for funerals. She pulled that dress on, wrestled the zipper up, put on her high heels and her lipstick, and walked to the Sears near our house to get a minimum wage job answering the phones. But here was the difference. In that America, a minimum wage job saved our home and saved our family. Because I grew up in an America where if you made minimum wage, you had a shot to build something. Today, a minimum wage job will not keep a mama and a baby out of poverty. We have to say in this country that no one who works full-time should live in poverty, and that means raising the minimum wage. Yes. Paid family leave, we got to keep fighting on this one. This one is just crazy. Only 12% of American workers who work in the private sector get any paid family or sick leave. You know, we are supposed to be the richest nation on earth. We are supposed to be a nation that cares about our families. Heck, we are supposed to be a nation that wants to see adults, women and men, able to go into the workforce and work. In order to do that, then we must be a nation that supports families better, and that means paid family leave. We've got to do this one. And I'm just going to mention one more. The list could go on, I know, forever, but I really want to mention one more, and that is schedules that work. Half of all workers in America today have little or no say over when they get called into work. And I just want you to think about, for any of you who don't live in that world, to think about what that means in terms of trying to arrange childcare, or in terms of trying to make a doctor's appointment, or in terms of trying to take a second job, or sometimes a third job, or in terms of trying to get an education. Go back to school part-time so you can make something more of yourself. Instead, half of our workforce has to be at the other end of the phone when the employer calls. Many of them have to show up, and if they don't, if it turns out they don't need them, they send them away or send them away after a few hours. Try doing your budget. If you don't know if you're going to get paid for 40 hours next week or you're going to get paid for 22 hours next week. We just want to get some basic fairness in the system. And this is one where I've got a bill that I introduced in the Senate. We've got a companion bill in the House. I hope we can build some support around this. Schedules that work. It's something that families need. It is a pro-family, pro-working people. I talk about these things because we cannot lose sight that we have fought for them. We have the data to back it up. We've got the arguments to make. We are willing to go in and we are willing to speak to everybody in the House, to everybody in the Senate. We are willing to get our groups together and get them organized, and we are willing to stay after it. These are going to be really tough times. They're going to be really tough times for everybody in this room. But they're going to be even tougher times for people who didn't make it into this room. And therein lies our inspiration. We didn't get in this fight for ourselves. We got in this fight because we truly believe. We truly believe in the vision of an America where everybody is just treated with some basic dignity and respect. We truly believe that America's greatness is that we build opportunity, that anyone who plays hard, who works hard, who plays by the rules, really will have a fighting chance to build something. That's why we got in these fights. And now we are needed more than ever. It is an honor to be here with you, and it will be an honor to fight alongside you, to make sure that women's voices, women's ideas, and women's power are felt throughout this country, now and tomorrow and forever.